I would love to, if you've got the time, run through the
Mm-hmm.
2022 schedule and just, you don't need to say win, loss, loss, win, win. Give me a percentage confidence if you're good with that
I
on
love
each
that.
one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love that, Mark. Because what I will do, so when I drop my predictions after
Yep.
July 4th, I put the games, Mark, into buckets: wins, toss-ups, and losses, right? So I guess this can kind of fall with percentages as well. And then, so I'll do the wins, toss-up, losses, and then I'll do my actual prediction. And I'll lock them in with a score. But so just go down the schedule and give you a percentage for each. I would say Georgia State, and it can be tough. These are literally off the dome. Georgia State, I would say 85%. I feel good. South Carolina should win that football game. It is an 11-point spread. Could I see South Carolina messing around and making it a muddy game and making it closer than it should be? Yes, but I feel confident the Gamecocks will win. At Arkansas, I give South Carolina 35%. Tough game on the road. Arkansas is a good team. I could see the Gamecocks pulling the upset, but I'm not going to pick it. Georgia, 10%. I mean, I think Georgia is elite. I think Georgia is, I know they lose a lot, but they'll reload. They got 5 stars over the place. Gamecocks aren't ready yet, I don't think, to pull that upset. Charlotte, 95%. SC State, 97%. Both those are like guaranteed kick in the bucket wins. I feel like I'd be better off, Mark, giving you like wins, toss-ups, or losses because my percentages suck. When I look at the schedule, Georgia State, Charlotte, SC State, and Vandy are wins. Those are heavy black ink. Put a W, right? Losses in heavy black ink are Georgia, A&M, and Clemson. Everything else is a toss-up in my mind. I will say this, though, Mark, and this might be even more intriguing to you than any other conversation. I will say this. Going into the Clemson game last year, right, I think all of Gamecock Nation had as much confidence, if not more confidence, than we've had in that rivalry game since 2014. Because it's been – South Carolina has lost, Mark, the last – I believe it's the last 8 contests. I can't even keep up with the losing streak at this point. They've lost the last 7 contests by an average of 26 points per game to Clemson. I will say this going in the season. I feel strangely optimistic about that game. I do. For whatever reason, the streak's got to end at some point. Spencer Rattler, I feel strangely optimistic. I'm not sitting here picking a win, but I don't look at that game and say, oh, my God, Carolina's going to lose by 30. Like, I do look at that and say, you know what? Maybe. But I look at the rest of the schedule, Mark, as toss-ups. Again, I think it's just really hard to put a percentage on the games. I think, I rank the games on toughest to easiest. A&M, to me, is the one I probably go into with the least hope, Mark, because we have never beaten Texas A&M, and the games have not been close of late. I think Missouri is a game I look at that is closer percentage-wise to almost a win. I think it's a game South Carolina has to win. I think at Florida's tricky toss-up. I think it's a tricky game because everybody's so down on Florida, and I'm just not buying it. Like, Florida's still Florida. I'm not saying they're going to be great, but people are acting like Florida's going to go 3-9 this year. I don't see that. And then I think Tennessee's a really good team, but it's late in the season. You get them at home, and it'll probably be under the lights. So, the big toss-up games, Mark, and maybe this is so typical, but I gave you those 4 wins. The toss-up games that will define South Carolina's season are at Kentucky, Tennessee at home, Missouri at home, and at Florida. Those 4 will define the season. If you want to throw Arkansas in there as well, I mean, that's all of them. But, you
get the East Division, you got Georgia, right. You got Vandy, and then you got everybody else in between, and we're going to have to try to figure out who's who and who's going to be the best out of those.
Yeah, and SEC hierarchy, Mark, is important. I mean, South Carolina is trying to. I was thinking about this yesterday. Is like, I have very realistic expectations year in, year out. I believe in setting realistic expectations. I don't want to put the cart before the horse when it comes to Shane Beamer and just setting these unfair expectations. But at some point, on the flip side, at some point, if South Carolina is going to break through and emerge and be a program on the rise, and like, you know what? At some point, you got to stop just saying, well, we're not expected to win, so we're not going to win, and it's okay. Go beat Kentucky, man. You just got to do it. Beat Florida on the road. Beat Tennessee. You know what I mean? Like, teams Kentucky didn't get the benefit of the doubt until they did. Arkansas didn't get the benefit of the doubt last year until they did, until they just won games. Gamecock fans talk about the lack of respect that we get. If you want respect, go win. It's that simple. It's that simple. And hey, maybe you're not going to have the roster Arkansas has. Maybe you're not going to have the roster even that, God forbid, a Kentucky has, which it makes me want to puke to say that. Maybe you're not going to have the roster that a Tennessee has. But, Mark, there's teams every single week that aren't as good. Upsets happen all over the place in college football. Devise a game plan, go execute it, and find a way to win. Because all it'll take, look at Arkansas. All of a sudden, Arkansas is this sexy pick. Sam Pittman's this everything. They had one good season. And everybody's anointing Arkansas as like the sexiest thing in the West. So all it's going to take for South Carolina, you have all the momentum from last year. If you go 8-4 this year, Mark, let's say you go 8-4 and you win your bowl game. All of a sudden in year 3 of Beamer, South Carolina's the sexy team. They're the sexy pick. You can change the narrative in college football so fast, but at some point it's just got to change. You know, I want to be realistic, and I'm going to be realistic. But on the other side, I say, you know what? If you're going to have this upward trajectory and, you know, don't sell me on recruiting, don't sell me on culture, go win games. And you need those things, obviously, to set the foundation to win. But, you know, this team needs to break through at some point. South Carolina football's got to break through. If you're going to get closer back to, if you're going to move up the food chain in the SEC East, you can't lose to Kentucky every year, man. I don't give a damn what you think. Like, I give Kentucky as much respect, if not more, than any Gamecock fan out there. I don't give it. Like, Kentucky should be a win. I don't care if there's any Wildcats fans on this channel. Kentucky should be a win. Kentucky's still Kentucky. There's still Kentucky football. So,
Chris, I'll hit you with these 3 things. With all that said, I'll hit you with these 3 things. So you make a 3-pack out of Kentucky, Tennessee, and Florida. You win 2 out of those 3. You're happy, right?
Oh, that's a successful year. Yeah.
Okay.
1,000%. But you got to beat Mizzou, too.
Okay.
That's got to be a win. At home, that has to be a win.
That's my number 1 point. My number 2 point is we see double-digit upsets in college football every week. There's a couple every week, not crazy 30-point spreads, but a 12 or 14-point dog wins. Yeah. So I'm going to say, even though this is one of your least confident, I'm not making any bold prediction in June, but I'm just saying, folks, look out for, and I may start looking for these kind of games, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Gamecocks win at home over the Aggies.
Gamecocks, I will say this, Mark, Gamecocks are off the bye week. Is A&M overhyped? Again. Is A&M overvalued? Again. Maybe they are. The thing that is that's tough about that one, I think, is just, again, South Carolina has just had no success against them. I mean, the streak's got to end at some point, you think. I mean, you've got to end at some point. So the difference this year, Mark, is the dynamic of Spencer Rattler. Because I'm going to talk offensive line this preseason until I'm blue in the face, right? The offensive line was atrocious last year. But, somebody asked me on social media, Chris, what's going to be the difference in the Gamecocks winning 6 games and the Gamecocks winning 8 games? And you can revert and throw that card down offensive line. But you know what? It's going to come down to Spencer Rattler. It just is. It's quarterback play. If that's it. If he plays at a Heisman level, South Carolina will win 8 games. They will, at minimum. They will win 8 games. It's going to – because you know what? A lot of it is going to fall on him. He's going to get the offensive line in the right position, the right spots. He's going to, check them whatever way they need to go, whatever it might be. So they've got to play well. There's got to be a push in the run game. But when you add a guy like Spencer Rattler, maybe Rattler has a game like Steven Garcia had against Alabama in 2010 where he goes crazy, right? He goes off and he beats the Aggies, right? So that's the dynamic that Rattler provides your football team. I really do feel like, I will say this, kind of like what Spurrier gave you, in the sense that no matter who you're playing, you feel like you've got a chance. Because it's like, if this guy has a day, if it's his day today, we got a shot. Now, he needs everybody around him to help him, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean, Mark? Like, if he has one of those out-of-body type, just goes off, you got a shot. You got a shot. So we've seen it all the time, right? A team that maybe isn't all that great, but they've got the quarterback. I mean, look at Arkansas with KJ Jefferson. They got the guy. When you have the guy, you have a chance. So I like that one, though. A&M could, that could be a good one. At home, off the bye. We saw South Carolina do it last year. South Carolina, I think since 2000, I want to say it's 2009. I posted this stat. I should know it, but I think since 2009, the Gamecocks are 15-2, I think, coming off the bye week or something like that. So Gamecocks have been good off the rest week. So we'll see if it continues. But
I'm guessing most of those opponents. I'm guessing most of those opponents coming off the bye aren't Texas A&M, but still,
right?
Yeah, coming off the bye.
Yeah, I mean, there's some nasty streaks that need to end, Mark, when it comes to South Carolina football. I mean, you've got an 8-game losing streak to A&M. You've got a 7-game losing streak to Clemson. Kentucky's beaten you 7 of the last 8. There's just some trends that have got to be reversed. They just have to. You cannot. Here's the thing, Mark. Again, I set real expectations last year. I picked Kentucky to beat South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium. Gamecock fans hated that pick. And I knew that Kentucky game, Mark, it almost like it dictates the entire mood of the season for this fan base. Like, if you lose to Kentucky like last year, the season's spoiled already. Like, the season's spoiled already. Like, I've said this so many times, I'll say it again. Like, there's many things you can get away with in Columbia. Losing to Kentucky is just not one of them. Fans can't stomach that.
But this is the new Kentucky. This isn't Kentucky.
I understand what you're saying, but it still stings. It's still, I mean, even I say it. Like, this year, Kentucky will be the favorite, but it still hurts to lose to Kentucky. Because I just don't think people can wrap their heads around, oh, Kentucky's good at football now. And Kentucky should be picked ahead of South Carolina. Like, that is still, like, even just saying it, it's hard to fathom it. I got to be honest with you. It's just, it's crazy to see Kentucky being picked to, like, finish second in the East. It's nuts. It's nuts. It feels nuts, right? And but if you don't like it, you got to go beat them. You got to go beat them. Bottom line, got to beat them. That's it.
And then point number 3 would be, of course, you've already covered it, at Clemson. I know it's on the road. You've lost a million years in a row going back to 2013, but you got to think, here's the deal. You go into that game last year, and for the first time in a long time, at least on paper, it looked like you had a fighting chance. You get out onto the field, and it's bam, 30-0. But Clemson goes into that game last year. They're barely scoring 20 points against anybody. If they don't get better quarterback play, offensive line play, and wide receiver play, they don't have the wide receiver production that they had 3 to 5 years ago, and you've got the better quarterback.
Gives you a good shot. I mean, it gives you a good shot. You know, I don't know if you saw this, Mark, but, you know, it's talking season. It's also way too early line season in Vegas. And one of the sports books out there dropped the line. Clemson minus 16 in that game. And we talked about that on Wednesday, actually, at my live show at 10 Roof in the Vista. But somebody asked me about that line. What would you take right now? What side? And I tell you, Mark, as you mentioned, it almost feels like to me with Spencer Rattler, I know it's on the road. Clemson, though, has their whatever. They're trying to figure things out. I still think Clemson's a very good football team. I'm not until, you know, they had a bad year and won 10 games, right? I mean, and I get the conference they play in. I understand, but, like, they still have talent. They've got 3 defensive linemen on the freaking preseason All-American team. Like, they got talent, especially up front. And that's where it really shined last year against the Gamecocks, right? But if you can't cover the 16 this year with Spencer Rattler under center and all these additions you've been touting, if you can't cover the 16 this year, I don't care where the game's being played. That streak in my mind is going to hit double digits if you don't cover the number this year. Because in my opinion, Mark, and a lot can change, I don't think you're going to be a better team next year than you are this year. Not offensively, I don't think so, right? You're going to be starting all over again at quarterback. So I'm not saying you're going to be bad next year. That's looking way too far ahead. But, like, with the guys you've added, right? And if South Carolina is going to go 8-4, for example, even if they're going to be 7-5, I would like to think that's going to be a team good enough to hold this game within 16 points. So, yeah, certainly, like you said, Mark, not picking the upset. I will say this, though. You know, I don't make predictions to be like a shock jock. I really just pick games off of how I feel. And that's how I'm able to keep the game keep my predictions so realistic, right? Like, I ruffle the feathers, no pun intended, of a lot of Gamecock fans. I do. And I happily embrace my role in the USC community. I've looked at that Carolina-Clemson game the last couple of years when I made predictions and just been like, I've picked like a 25-point loss. I mean, you can ask anybody. You can go back and look at the picks. I think last year I picked the game to be like 45-20 Clemson. I didn't think Carolina even had a chance, right? At home, too. I will say, I'm looking a lot harder at that Clemson game going into this season, as I mentioned earlier, than I have in the past like 5 or 6 seasons. Like, I'm looking at that game like, that streak's got to end at some point. Carolina's added a lot of pieces. Is Clemson trending down? I'm just echoing what everyone else is saying. Crazier things have happened, Mark. Crazier things have happened. So, maybe this is the year. It's a long way till the end of November, but maybe.
There are games out there every year that nobody would predict, and they happen. College football, we got this hierarchy where everybody believes everything stays the same at the top, and it does. But with everything else, there's all sorts of upsets every week. Look, think of this, Chris. I have measured this out for like 5 consecutive college football seasons, that if you take the top 25 every week, and there's usually about 19 to 22 games because some of the teams are on buys or playing each other in the top 25, 20 to 25%. It's almost like clockwork every week. 20 to 25% of the games are upsets.
Yeah.
In the top 25.
I mean, like you said, there's this, the 6 to 8 teams that are elite that are competing for a national title. And then it's just everybody else. Like, you know what I mean? There's different levels to those teams, but yeah, man, parity's a real thing. Like I said, if it's a certain matchup or you have the right quarterback or, the line of scrimmage plays out favorably. I mean, look at last year in the bowl game, right? I mean, I think when people looked at South Carolina, North Carolina was a double-digit favorite. But if you talked to football people, I talked to Brad Lawing, again, that knows defensive line. He knows line of scrimmage. He said, Chris, I could have told you South Carolina was going to wax UNC because the mismatch up front was so evident. And UNC had one of the worst offensive lines in all of college football last year. So, yeah, I mean, if you got the right matchup or you got the right quarterback or maybe the team you're playing goes out and has a little too much fun the night before. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just, that's the beauty, Mark, of college football is that we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes. So, like, you don't know your favorite player or a quarterback or whatever. Him and his girlfriend could be fighting that week. He goes out and plays like hot dog water on Saturday. You don't know. You know what I mean? Like, these are 18 to 22-year-old kids. You know what I'm saying? So that's the beauty of the game. I mean, the upsets are what make college football so special. And it's easy to say that, though, right, until it's your team. Right? Until it's the 2007 6th-ranked Gamecocks that let Vanderbilt come into Williams-Brice Stadium and beat them. Like then upsets aren't so fun anymore. But it's the beauty of the game, man. So, I'd love to see South Carolina be on the right end in a couple of those because, at some point it does get a little exhausting just saying, well, you win the ones you're supposed to win, and you lose the ones you're supposed to lose. Well, at some point, if you're going to break through and you're going to move up the ladder, you got to win a game you're not supposed to. And don't lose the ones you're supposed to win, right? That's the key. Can you couple those two things together?